Hello and welcome back. This weekend, and this is the most important announcement, this weekend Victoria 3 is going to be free up until November 20th. So if you've been thinking of trying out the game, now would be a good time. We're also going to do a rundown of Dev Diary 101, and as part of that we are going to be looking at the free announcement. This Dev Diary mainly features, various changes and little tweaks that were put in a hotfix, which is spectacular, related to patch 1.5, which just released earlier this week. And so without further ado, let's jump in and let's watch the video.
Peggy 12. Amidst the clattering machinery of the Industrial Revolution, you will experience the forging of nations and emergence of empires. A tale of the 19th century, where you as a leader will navigate through the transformative years of the Victorian era, while guiding your populace to prosperity. A struggle for progress, and a clash of ideologies. Learn to master the art of politics and diplomacy during a period long gone, but never forgotten. Victoria 3. Try it for free between the 16th and 20th of November.
Alright, normally I would pause and comment in between, but I couldn't bear to break up in the Hall of the Mountain King, which of course was the absolute beat that was being jammed. So let's get into this. We are going to have a whole bunch of bug fixes here in this Dev Diary, but overall the Dev Diary is quite short, and so this video will likely be quite short. While we're going through this, you might want to just boot up the game and listen to me in the background, because it's mainly just going to be me reading through this and going through it and giving my thoughts on this. And so without further ado, let's get into it. Fixed a bug that caused a crash in C combat, get units modifier, etc. Mostly etc. Fixed crash military formations manager. Fixed bug where sometimes would cause transfer subject war goals to not get resolved as promised when peace is signed, or when a party gives in during a diplomatic play, which is great. Imposing laws on your subjects now forces them to start enactment of the law as intended. Perfect. UI thing will no longer break. Great. Fixed a bug that prevented Quechua and South Indian subjects from being annexed, which is a pretty big bug in your South America update, to be fair. And fixed a bug where military flags weren't visible and the Voice of the People DLC was enabled. Okay, user interface, and this is perhaps the very biggest thing. This was the most annoying thing kind of on release, where they use this new job seekers thing to denote how many job seekers were in a province instead of the unemployment / peasants that we had before, which job seekers include people who just have bad jobs, and so it was really hard to tell where you should build on this basis. But now with peasants and unemployed, this is greatly improved. You can see that they're playing Peru-Bolivia, it seems, with La Paz, but alright. Did some modding stuff. I don't know, I'm not a modder, so this is not my purview, and we are currently looking to address feedback received at the tail end of open beta and after the full release. The changes will be coming in future patch tentatively numbered 1.5.9, which will be compatible with current 1.5 saves. We are aiming to get this patch in your hands before the end of November, focusing on the following improvements. So this, to me, implies that this will not be in the hotfix. This is the hotfix. This is the hotfix, and this is what's coming. Okay, so UI, AI, and balance. We're working on several improvements in these areas, mainly pertaining to military matters. A few things you can expect from the UI in 1.5.9. Again, this is not live. Includes the following. By the way, AI is super aggressive, or that was in my small sample. That seems to be the case in 1.5, which I'm loving, but is going to take some adjusting to in terms of like knowing how to play. Okay, so in the Mobilization tab, now this looks so much better. where you can click all the things that you want to put in, and you can see all your different armies, what their mobilization options are, and this just looks so much better than the user interface with the drop-down menus and this type of thing, because you'll just need to scroll and click all the things you want, and it's available and like visual at a glance. You know, I would love if they made it so that you could, you know, create templates and then you could just replicate the templates, but this is also a spectacular improvement. We're also improving the signaling of how many units are currently under recruitment, and so they have this, you know, 4+10, this type of thing, for a specific formation in several places of the UI. You can see a plus under recruitment, and you can see +1 under recruitment. Convoy rating and defense, which is currently a little opaque. The naval warfare systems were revised in 1.5 to account for our fleet formations and precise locations. In most cases, we have seen usability improvements from these reworks, but the convoy rating rework resulted in a bit of a hodgepodge where legacy design goals involving uncertainty and risk-taking conflicted with new precise locations and visualizations. Understandably, if you want to know precisely where things are, you cannot have uncertainty. As a result, the convoy rating system is quite a bit hard to hard to understand, and also create certain notification spam sometimes. For 1.5.9, we're working on a revision that should be less chance-based, more easily understood, more revolving around the push and pull in particular C nodes rather than guesswork. Currently, there seems to be like a little bit of cat and mouse where you kind of chase people around where they're raiding a particular C node and then they just leave if you come in with a way bigger navy. We noticed that behavior like once or twice, so maybe we're just imagining things, but you know, it's an interesting bit of cat and mouse, but it is a little micro heavy, so I'm not sure if it's, well, okay. I guess in theory you would want the general to, or the admiral to defend an entire chain of your shipments and this sort of thing, and then he would make his own decisions. But you know, we'll see how it goes. Borrowed troops. So this is the big thing why I have not released any sort of military tutorial. The troop borrowing mechanic is just absolutely wild, and how it's going to operate exactly is going to greatly inform what the metagame looks like. So in the old systems, generals on the same side would often borrow troops from each other for both offense and defensive operations. And if this is the case, then you know you build your armies a certain way to ensure battles weren't too lopsided, particularly when one side had many and the other side had a few generals. Various aspects of the new system, such as formations pooling troops between different generals as well as multiple battles, make this behavior unnecessary and sometimes problematic for offensive operations. In particular, you don't want to be borrowing a bunch of infantry on offense when you want your composition to be as artillery heavy as possible. And so it was removed, but remained for defensive purposes, since losing a front is bad for all involved parties. Perfect. However, as some of you have noted, this can lead to situations where your AI-controlled armies perform recklessly against a far superior foe, or where a player-controlled small army with a powerful ally has little agency. I guess you just set them on defend, right? Because they can't borrow on the offensive. And so, yeah, we'll kind of get into that, but like what the metagame like is going to be different depending on what it is. You either are going to want to have you know, big blocks of like mixed infantry, or you're going to want to have, you know, mixed infantry and artillery, or you're going to want to have I think that what it's going to be is you're going to want a bunch of little small defensive units, since they can borrow, and then they won't inform the offense, and this will allow you to have a much bigger advantage on defense, and then kind of select your spot when you decide to, you know, attack after wearing down the enemy in kind of close engagements, because defense overall is stronger than offense, especially with the changes where you can no longer have 100% artillery armies. To address this, we're working on adding a player toggleable support for troop borrowing / lending between formations on an army-by-army basis. This is spectacular. In addition to fixing the reckless AI issue, this will let you more easily manage wars where you just want to supply your ally with some extra extra manpower or revoke access to your troops and go it alone if your ally sends some of the bumbling fool of a particularly appointed general to lead the charge. So in particular, like, sometimes you don't want to push a front and then your allies are borrowing your troops, and this is terrible. In the beta, there was, and I haven't noticed this in-game currently, there was a huge bug where you could borrow troops from, or your enemies could borrow your own troops from you, and then you would be fighting your own troops. And I think that's removed now, but yeah, okay. Job satisfaction and job seekers. So they introduced a new mechanic. I think this is what's stymieing migration. Migration overall in patch 1.5.7 here feels worse than 1.5.4, which was the mechanic that they rolled it back to, and I think it's because of the newly introduced job seekers mechanics. We introduced a pop mechanic in 1.5.5 in the open beta, where pops would evaluate how well they like their professional lot in life based on a number of factors such as wage competitiveness, qualifications, etc., expected, and so on. The intent of this mechanic was twofold. It gives you information about where your props are most keen to get access to new high-paying jobs, and can be used to inform them inform construction decisions, and it acts as a filter on the employment mechanics for performance purposes, so not every pop will need to evaluate for available jobs. We intend on further building on this mechanic in the future. For example, to inform the revised migration system, which was in 1.5.5. They decided it was a little too fresh, and then it got rolled back to 1.5.4, which we launched alongside job satisfaction in open beta, but reverted for 1.57 launch since it needed a bit more time in the oven. Okay, we've discovered a few balancing and UX issues with job satisfaction since launch, which can, in some situations, make the mechanic quite frustrating and difficult to understand. Polishing away some of the rough edges of the system is a priority for 1.5.9 patch. One of the things is, like, sometimes employment can get really sticky. Employment is a little bit more sluggish. Not necessarily a bad thing that it's sluggish, but I do think this is the result of the job seekers mechanic. I think the decreased levels of migration are the result. This was, like, terrible when it was just job seekers, which it was the past couple days, but now it's not, and now you can kind of choose your own thing, choose your fate. Okay, military goods shortages. This is a little bit interesting. When they switched to the new military system, well, I guess I'll just read it. In the military system of 1.5 used in prior, when your army was fully managed through buildings and barracks rather than managed through the army itself, naval bases and construction sectors, goods shortages suffered by military buildings would directly translate into penalties to combat units supported by those buildings. In 1.5.7, shortages have no effect on combat's ability to fight. That's right, your shortages don't matter, they're not real. Since they are now managed by formations rather than buildings, and formations don't care about shortages. Don't care. While it's already the case that running a military goods shortage, you have a problem supplying results in very high costs, but, like, military goods overall are not really at that high a cost. We don't feel that this is sufficient. For 1.5.9, we're looking to implement a system where formations inherit the shortages from their units building, which will impact the supply value of the formations and thereby limit the morale that the units in those formations will recover. You will also be blocked from building unit types that require goods your market has no access to, which is an interesting one at the end, but they're going to make it matter because having to pay just a little bit more is not really that big a cost. Alright. Bugs. With a whole lot of the added content in 1.5 classes of the South, a number of edge cases and non-game breaking but still annoying bugs have been identified since launch. We're working on this too. Flamethrowers, obviously, frankly, no comment necessary. So now there's a time to play, or now there's a strong reason to play late into the game because you can get the flamethrower sprites. We have some other news we also have some other news today. From later today, the Victoria 3 base game was free to play from the weekend, from the 16th to the 20th of November. They probably should have led with this, but okay. So we hope that you and your fellow Victorians, we hope you help out your fellow Victorians when they have questions about the game, direct them to game resource knowledge, and share the spirit of the camaraderie around the Victorian age. Our Discord server has a great set of helpers to help new players, and resources on YouTube, the forums, and Steam to explain mechanics. We will see you next time, next Dev Diary, arriving in 2 weeks' time on the 30th of November, with Martin talking about the past year and some of what is next for Victoria 3 post 1.5. So that's it. That's the Dev Diary. It's free to play this weekend, so if you've been on the fence, you want to try it out, it's free to play this weekend. Also free, mostly free, and other than that, have a free day.